Hello, I'm Caleb Brown, and this is it. This is the home stretch, and this will be the final presentation of the year. It's been a fun class, but today I'm going to talk about something else that's a bit different, which is mental health, more precisely mental illness, and its correlation, if it has any, with violence. The main purpose for the reason why I'm doing this presentation today is because, unlike most topics where I find the general principle interesting, this one I find interesting about the lack of knowledge most people have about mental illness and how it relates to violence. So let's get started. Hold on. There we go. So, stigma or fact. Many believe that mental illness and violence go together. So, especially with the more severe mental illness such as schizophrenia and psychosis, many believe that people with those mental illness have a significant increase in violence. In actuality, this is very, very minor. It's a very small increase, if there is at all, and it's nothing that should be feared like the media will have you believe, right? They'll talk about how, oh, so-and-so will secure rights to a law that gives mental illness the rights to own guns, and that will typically make most Americans afraid. This one is from Harvard. This was from Harvard Newsletter. 60% of Americans in this case would believe that, oh, that's not necessarily good. Or maybe not necessarily good, but that they would believe that they're more potentially violent, possibly going to align with not allowing them to have arms to protect themselves. Another sect would even say that those with major depression, a very, very severe mental illness, but not necessarily the same in effects as psychosis or schizophrenia, very different mental illnesses, they would say that it also makes them more violent than those who are not afflicted by many mental illness. From the same newsletter, once again, this is only 32% of people in America at that time that was taken. Now, despite these popular beliefs, they are largely false. There's little evidence, actually, or maybe not evidence. No evidence. Evidence and correlations that go hand in hand, showing and proving that those with mental illness actually do violent acts. Now, why is this the case? Well, there are many reasons why many people would think this. One to which many have been pointing to lately is news outlets. News outlets, the saying, right? If it's on the news, don't fear it because it's most likely not happen. It's news for that reason. It's something new, it's something never seen before. And that is true. People typically fear what they least understand. And that goes very well with mental illness, especially with psychosis and schizophrenia. It's very, very hard for a person to put themselves in the shoes of someone who does have mental illness, let alone schizophrenia or psychosis, those reality-altering mental illnesses. So that, combined with travesty, in the rare situations where violence does happen, it can create a lot of perceptions in the public to where they can fear these people. This has negative consequences because besides them, having a discriminated fear, I'll say discriminated fear from the public, there will also be increased tensions between psychiatrists, the psychiatrists that aren't aware of mental illness and its relation with violence, which there is none, and it could prevent them from actually getting help they need from the fear, or they could really result to different treatment. Another reason why, or this is still along the lines of what was said before with the fear of the unknown, but because most do not understand, right, this mental illness, it's very easy to dehumanize people with this mental illness. They act in their eyes erratically. They don't understand. It's very easy to keep this stigma and perception going as they don't understand what they're going through or what's actually happening. That's the whole thing about this. They don't understand. They can keep the perception going, especially through dehumanizing them. I find it's very important that the matter gets clarified, as long as the stigma exists, no proper steps will be taken to actually improve rampant violence in the United States, which it is quite rampant. It is the 15th leading cause of death, top 20 in the top 20. So yeah, there should definitely be steps taken towards improving that. And besides just violence, it's also having a hampering effect between psychiatrists and those actually affected and need help with schizophrenia and psychosis. So, if it's not mental illness, what does determine violence? Well, there are a few things. I'll point to three on this slide. A major indicator of violence, especially from this article I found on a database, Schizophrenia and Violence, Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. That is a mouthful. They found that those who suffer from schizophrenia and psychosis are more likely to be suffering from substance abuse. And along with that substance abuse, they have an increased tendency to commit violent acts. However, a person who does not have mental illness, a general public person who does not suffer from any mental illness but does suffer from substance abuse, they are just equally as likely to commit those violent acts with the person who does have schizophrenia and may be abusing alcohol, rather than just a person abusing alcohol without psychosis or schizophrenia. Both of these people are much higher in a percentage and statistics than just a person with schizophrenia and psychosis in committing violent acts. So that was kind of a word salad there. But essentially, right, if you abuse substances like alcohol or any extreme drugs, that puts you way higher in not capabilities, but in chances of committing violent acts compared to even just a person suffering from schizophrenia or psychosis. The thing that most people think increases violent tendencies in a person. Along with this, social class also predicts violence. People in lower social classes typically commit more crime. This is due to poorer education, less opportunity, less chances to make money. So they typically live a more frugal, harsh, brusque lifestyle. There's more of an incentive to commit crime, especially in lower class citizens than upper class. Because when you're upper class, there's not much violent crime. There's no incentive to do violent crime. In fact, it's disincentive. There is an incentive against doing that. Another indicator of violent tendencies in a person is if they have suffered abuse from a parent or siblings or any familial person. Alright. So, what can be gained from this? Well, the more people who understand the danger of this stigma, as there are great dangers with it, including not allowing those who suffer from schizophrenia and psychosis to get the help they need, as well as just the general public belittling and fearing these group of people who desperately need help in some situations. They're making life much harder for them when it doesn't need to be. Along with that, it's also putting an unnecessary scapegoat on mentally ill people when the real focus should be substance abuse and controlling substance abuse and helping those who are struggling with substance abuse. That way, if there is a positive correlation with that, violence can go down. But that is a struggle all on its own. So, in conclusion, many think that those with mental illness should be treated with caution because they are viewed as potentially violent by the American public. The stigma behind this is caused by mainly news outlets and fear of things we do not fully understand, as well as dehumanization caused by not fully understanding. And lastly, with the understanding behind what can actually make a person violent, we can properly put efforts forth to reduce this violence. And it is for these reasons why efforts should be taken to understand the stigma and the actual effects of mental illness and increased tendency of violence. So that being said, it's been a year, crazy year, but it's over now. Thank you very, very much for watching this.